Welcome to the podcast. I want to talk to you guys today because there's a lot of things are going on. First of all, I want to tell you that we've just updated the website, robertcabral.com. A lot of new stuff. The courses are set up differently. A lot more ability for you to train your dog, a lot more fun stuff going on, a lot more stuff to engage you more in dog training, engage you with other members. I think you're going to love that. So that's the first thing. And that's not really what the podcast is about. The podcast is about the state of affairs in the world, mainly in the United States. Now, as you know, the one thing I can promise you is not going to be political. I think there's too much stuff going on that's political. I think there's too much social media stuff going on. I think there's too much stuff in the media that's upsetting people, right? I think the mental health crisis of the world with all the COVID and all the politics and the anger about one political side or the other political side is really fueling a lot of negativity. And the one thing you guys have come to expect from me is to keep it about dogs. And I've, tried my best to always do that. And that's really been my mission, is to really have you have a place where you can go, where you don't have to deal with any BS, you don't have any negativity about the world, about anything like that. And I just want to talk a little bit about that, right? I want to talk about what we can do with our mental affairs, where we put our thoughts. Let's look at it that way, right? And the one thing that I always look at is life isn't that bad if you got a dog. This podcast is brought to you commercial-free by the Fi Collar. The Fi Collar is the GPS collar that I use on my dogs. It is, in my opinion, the best collar that I have found. I love it. I think it works great. I can track my dog on my phone. I know when my dog leaves certain zones. I know how many steps my dog takes. I know if I'm having somebody watch my dog, if they pick up my dog, I know who my dog is with. The Fi Collar is a really stylish, very small collar that fits on your dog. It comes with a really stylish collar, either in gray or in the really cool yellow, which I really love, and works great. I've used it for a long time. I recommend the Fi Collar, and the Fi Collar is sponsoring this show. Thanks to Fi Collar. Go to the front of robertcabral.com, or if you're watching this video on YouTube, click the link below and you'll get my discount code automatically applied to save on the Fi Collar. Depending on where you live in the world, and I've visited some poor areas, namely in Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. And I found some of the happiest people there, right? I've seen people who, I've seen women with a baby, a couple days old, tied around their waist, and they're sweeping the street with a twig. I've seen a guy in Uganda, last time I was there, a few years back, he had a chicken on a rope. He had that chicken. That was his thing. I saw kids just, rolling a tire, and that was their toy. So what makes us happy is often victimized by where we live and how we live in the world. So we, and this really goes in with dogs. Like, in other words, we see people, and Janet and I just had this conversation the other day, where people have a dog and it's a really nice dog, and the dog doesn't measure up to another dog. So in this world, for example, where Janet is, agility or hunting, or myself with obedience and stuff like that, or in protection sports as well, people get a dog because they want to do the sport, right? And that is, in my opinion, kind of the wrong reason. I think you should get a dog and find what the dog wants to do and then do the sport. But if you kind of say, I want to do agility, I'm going to get a dog to do agility, a lot of times it sets you up for failure, because the dog might not pan out. The dog might actually wash out and not enjoy the sport or not be good at the sport. Now, Janet's different. Janet really loves her dog, so whatever they end up doing, she's fine with. Right? She's not very hard on the dog. She expects a lot of herself, but she doesn't really expect a lot of the dogs, and has had incredible success with Bosman, with Jimmy, and now with Dwayne. They're all three really, really great dogs. But people set these expectations for their dogs, and when the dogs don't measure up to those expectations, they get disappointed. So we constantly have these things that disappoint us. We constantly have influences around us that can make us negative or bring us down or make us feel bad or make us feel inadequate or make us feel ugly or fat or skinny or poor or old or whatever it is, right? All those influences are out there. How you accept them, how you interpret them, and how you deal with them, and if you accept them, is what makes the difference. Now, I always look back and, when I wake up in the morning, I see Janet next to me, I see Goofy and Maya and Boz and Dwayne and Jimmy, and I kind of think, well, it's kind of just really started off like a perfect day. Wherever it goes from here, I've made up my mind that I want it to be a good day. Now, trust me, I suffer with depression. I suffer with feeling down and feeling inadequate and not having enough time in my day and all those things. So if you face that, if you struggle with that, I've got a lot of sympathy for you. I totally understand. In fact, I'm very much tuned into people who suffer from that. And it can flip in a minute, right? Or literally in a second. You can be having the greatest day in the world, and then suddenly something just triggers you and boom, you feel horrible. But think about your dog, right? So the one thing that I think for clarity and solid mental health is looking to your dog, looking at what the dog means to you, but more importantly, looking at what you mean to that dog. In other words, you could get rid of that dog, dump it at a shelter, and go get another dog. Your dog doesn't have that luxury. Right? So you need to look at what your dog means to you and what you mean to your dog and how that can help you through these times. So right now, the world is locked down. The people are out of work. They're telling us all these stories. And if you listen to the news and you look at social media, there's no way in the world you're going to be happy. I mean, I kind of hope that listening to this podcast or watching my dog training videos or reading what I wrote or looking at a picture that I posted can just bring you back to reality for a second and can make you look at things and say, it's really not that bad. And that's what you got to do. You've got to kind of dwell in those happy moments because you only get so many moments in this life. And if you look at you're predicting the inevitable, inevitably it's all going to be bad. Inevitably we're all going to die, we're going to get sick and we're going to die. And our dogs are going to get sick and they're going to die. And our friends are going to get sick and they're going to die. That's the inevitable. But dealing with that now pushes it forward, right? In other words, if you start thinking now, well, my dog's going to die, my dog's going to get sick, I'm going to get sick, I don't feel good, I'm getting older and this and that. Well, then you're just taking and moving that bar from where it will be to right now. And that's what you got to avoid. In other words, you got to live happy in the moment. And as much as that's a real cliche and sounds really stupid to say, that's kind of how dogs live, right? Even Bozman, who's 18 years old now, he's having a hard time holding his bladder. He pees. Janet was holding him, we were talking, he peed. We took him outside, he sat down and picked him up. She would take him upstairs. He peed again. But in the moments when you're holding him, in the moments when he's sleeping, in the moments when he's eating, those are the great moments, right? It's not in those moments he doesn't think about the bad moments, but we as humans do that. Now, I'm going to make a disclaimer here because I'm about 7 minutes into this or 8 minutes into this, and I'm sounding like I'm like trying to Anthony Robbins you and cope you up, and I hate all that crap. I detest motivational coaches. I detest feel-good people. I detest all these people who try to jack you up on positive vibes. I'm just telling you about my life, right? I'm just telling you about how I deal with these things. And I get it. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not that positive guy who lives in the mansion, who flies a helicopter and does all these things. That ain't me, right? I live a real simple life. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about my life. But it's the simple things that I take the most pleasure in, right? Today I took my car. I backed my minivan into a handrail. I was talking to my friend on the phone, backing up, boom. Okay, I took it to the body shop. I got it fixed, and I was so happy to get my minivan back. But I'll tell you what made me happier is it had this little light on that showed that the tires were needed tire pressure. Well, the guy at the gas station said, oh, my car's had that, and my friend's car's had it, and you can't get that light to turn out. And I was like, oh, man. Little things like that drive me nuts. Like little things, if I can't fix little things, ask Alan. Little things on the website, they gotta be fixed. Like little tiny, like there's too big of a border on a picture. It drives me batty. I'm neurotic. I'm super anal like that. So my thought initially went to, man, I'm not gonna be able to do that. I'm not gonna be able to fix that little light. And I sat in the car and I played with it. I put the air pressure in and it wouldn't go out. And I found this little button and I pushed it and it went out. It made me so happy. I took such immense joy in finding that button that did that. And then I went down, I checked my mail at my mailbox, and there was a check there that somebody owed me some money, so that added to it. I went over to the store, I bought Janet some roses, I came home, and it was just good all around, right? So you can capitalize on the one thing, and that's what dogs do, right? Dogs, they're always wagging their tails. So I come home, and I can guarantee you 70% of the time, Janet will be at the door and greet me. Or I'll hear her voice in the house 80% of the time that she's there. Now, 20% of the time she might be busy, predisposed, she might not be home, believe it or not. And then I come home to just the dogs. But the dogs, 100% of the time, when I open that door, they're greeting me. Now, I could say, hey, get out of the way, whatever. And I kind of play with them. I kind of, hey, come on, Dad's home, get out of the way. But the joy that I get out of seeing those wagging tails and those smiling eyes makes my day. And no matter how bad things get, there's even studies done on this, that no matter how bad things are, the joy of petting your dog, of walking your dog, of playing with your dog is immense, right? It releases all the oxytocin, the feel-good hormones, and it's something we don't take advantage of enough. And when we're dealing with, the COVID crisis and the jobless crisis and the political crisis and everybody hates you if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican or if you're this or if you're that, and all the crap, right? Because everybody's tied into these identities. Like, how many people are tied into the identity of, oh, my dog's a pit bull, or my dog's a German shepherd, or my dog's a Rottweiler, or my dog is this, and people don't like pit bulls, and people are afraid of this dog, and people this. It's all these labels. It's labels that seek to destroy us, right? They seek to make us unhappy. Because if I'm a Christian, I have to believe a certain way, and anybody who doesn't believe my way is wrong. Or if I'm a Muslim, I believe a certain way, and anybody who doesn't believe my way is wrong. Or if I'm a Jew, I believe a certain way. Or if I'm a Republican, I believe a certain way. If I'm a Democrat, I believe a certain way. If I'm a positive-only trainer, I believe a certain way. And it's exactly that which makes you feel so bad about yourself and so bad about the state of the world that you got to aim to change. And the simplest way to change it is looking back to the most basic thing that everybody who's listening to this podcast has: a dog. If you're listening to my podcast and you don't have a dog, you got to get a dog. You can't listen to my podcast and not have a dog unless you recently lost a dog. And then I've got a lot of sympathy for you. That's a whole nother podcast. And I've done 2 podcasts on that topic as well. But if you have a dog and you're unhappy, then there's something you need to readdress. You need to take your dog, you need to hug your dog, you need to give your dog a pat on the head, you need to rub up against your dog, you need to grab him and kiss him and rough him up and love him, and just take a walk. Right? I mean, in the most upset times that I have, when I'm really angry or I'm really frustrated or I'm confused, I'm sad, the nicest thing I can do is take a long walk with my dog. And that doesn't matter if it's cold, freezing cold outside. Okay, I live in Southern California. I don't live in Montana where you've got 30 below zero. But I did live in Nashville, and it could be pretty cold there, but I would still take the dog out. If it was 25, 35 degrees, I would still take the dog out for a walk in the snow, and I had a great time. I loved walking in the snow. I love walking my dog in the rain. I love walking my dog, I'm not big when it's super hot because I worry about the dog, but just getting out and moving your body, it's a huge piece. Right? There's so many things we can do to make our lives better, and the first thing is stop looking and trying to kind of compare yourself to other people. That's the big mistake people make. They all want to compare their lives to the lives of others. They all want to look at some girl on Instagram and say, oh, I want to be beautiful like her. Or they want to look at the guy on Instagram and go, oh, I want a car like his. I want to be rich like him. And it's complete and utter nonsense, right? I'm going to take a minute here and address one of the sponsors of our show, and that is Fi Collar. The Fi Collar is a GPS collar. It's the GPS collar that I use, and it works. You track your dog on your phone. You can set boundaries where your dog goes, where your dog's allowed to go. When the dog goes beyond that zone, you get a notification. You can have notifications when your dog is with someone else. You can get notifications where your dog is. You also will know how many steps your dog's taken. Now, I can tell you that I've used the Fi Collar for quite some time now, and I'm always impressed by the quality of the Fi Collar. I'm always impressed by how well it monitors my dog's location. I mean, literally, I can watch as I'm walking on the phone where my dog is. If my dog gets out of the house, my Fi Collar will tell me where the dog is, and it will send me an alert almost instantaneously and tell me where my dog is. I like the Fi Collar. I trust the Fi Collar. And if you want to try the Fi Collar, go to the front of robertcabral.com and click on the Fi Collar icon, and you'll get a discount, a very, very big discount, by being my friend and my viewer. So try the Fi Collar. You'll really love it. And by the way, Fi Collar has sponsored this podcast, so it's brought to you commercial free. Anyway, back to the important stuff of our dogs. You know, and we want things like the Fi Collar because it protects our dog and it protects our investment in the dog. And I'm not talking about a financial investment, I'm talking about an emotional investment. And after all, that's the biggest investment we have. Everything financial can be regained. If I lose money, it can be regained. If I lose my car, I can buy another one. I can't regain time. I can't regain emotions. I can't regain trust. This is why dogs are so important to us. It's not the $100, $500, $2,000, whatever dollars we spend on our dogs. It's the emotional investment, the emotional commitment we have to those dogs, right? If somebody takes my car, I can get the exact same car, the same model, the same year, the same color, the same interior and everything. Now, although I can get the same breed, age, or whatever of dog, it's not the same dog because of the emotional investment that we have in the dog. And that's something we really got to cherish. That's something we really want to look at in the dog to say, hey, this dog is my partner. This dog is my connection. And that connection is something that in my life, in having dealt with depression and sadness and a lot of these emotions, has changed me, has made me, has saved me in so many ways. And by that one thing, by being saved by that, by being, pulled off the edge by my emotions of the love of my dog, whether it was Silly or Goofy or Maya or my dog Boots or my love for Boz and Jimmy and Dwayne and everybody and all my dogs. That's what I want you to look at. So when you deal with the dismay of the world and the dismay of your job and the dismay of whatever's going on in your life, seek out the comfort of where your life is currently with your dog. Right? Your dog can sit, your dog will listen to you. Sometimes you just got to talk, and I've cried plenty of tears and told plenty of stories to Goofy and Silly and Maya as well. And there's that knowing in their eyes, right? It's that knowing when somebody listens to you and doesn't have to say something back. So we're all feeling a little troubled right now. We're all feeling a little sensitive right now, a little angry right now, a little confused right now. And I think it's those confusing feelings that really upsets us. And I think it's really important to understand that that's where our dogs can help us, right? So when our dogs get confused, we have to be the strength for them. And when we get confused, we can kind of look for that strength in our dogs. And that can be just the consistency. Take your dog out and train for a while. And if your dog doesn't get it, your dog seems to be a slow learner, embrace what they can do. Maya is a very slow learner. And although that seems frustrating, it's kind of refreshing in a way because of the simplicity of things. And it's something we often don't look at, right? We often become real frustrated with our dogs because they're not doing something the way they should be doing it. But what we're not looking at is the gift of that maybe they don't need to, right? In other words, Maya can do some things, not as well as Goofy, not as well as Dwayne or Jimmy, but she can do some things. But what I love about Maya is the simplicity of her purity, just that simplicity of she's just a simple dog. She just will look at you. And, you know, in the past, I've gotten upset with her. I was like, why don't you get this? Until I really grasped the reality that to her, it's not important, right? She would just assume lay next to me as she would go out and train. Now, Goofy loves to train and play and engage and stuff like that. And the lesson I've always tried to teach people about their dogs, and I hope it comes through in this podcast as well as other podcasts, is you got the dog you got, right? You've got to enjoy the dog you got for the reason they're in your life. There's I think it's a Carlos Castaneda story where he talks about the petty tyrants. And if you have really annoying people in your life, these people are in your life for a reason. And the reason they're usually in your life is to teach you not to be like that, right? So if you have somebody in your life that is just annoying you and they're whatever it is about them that really annoys you, the reason they're in your life and the reason you're allowing them to continue to be in your life is because they're reminding you of a way not to be. Now, dogs are in our lives for a reason that's quite different, and that is to enlighten and heighten our spiritual journey, right? Call it what you will. But life is a spiritual journey, getting from point A to point B, and eventually point Z, which is where it's all over. But that entire journey is really quite transformative if we allow it to be, if we kind of just look back and look. You know, a dog we consider a lesser creature than us because they are not as highly evolved as us. But the lessons you can learn from that less evolved creature. And some people say, oh, you know, that's wrong, whatever. I'm just telling you, forget the whole hyperbole, forget all the nonsense of what we've got to say that's politically correct or not. But let's say we have to understand that a dog is a lesser creature than us. They lack a lot of the skills that we have, but here's an important piece to that. Because they lack these higher level skills, they have the ability to teach us things at a core level. And it's at that core level where everything really falls apart, right? We really fall apart at our core level. We don't fall apart at high levels. High levels are easy. It's the core, it's the basic things. It's the things that take us back to our childhoods. The things that take us back to feeling inadequate or stupid or ugly or whatever, fat, skinny, gross, stupid. You know, I mean, I remember I had it all. I was a skinny kid. I was an asthma-ridden kid. I got beat up going to and from school. I get it. You know, and now I'm strong. I work out. I did martial arts. I get it. But in my spirit, I still have those little parts that I'm constantly protecting. The little boy, and that's what, you know, you're protecting the little girl or the little boy, whatever that is. But that's the core level, and that's the level that the dog influences in our life. And that's what makes me so happy about having dogs, because I can deal with the higher stuff, the complicated this or that or whatever, but it's the core stuff that when it shakes me to my core, that's where the dog saves me. The dog saves me at the exact place where I need to be saved. So think about that. Think about how important it is for you to be strong at the core. Think of the foundation of a house, right? Yeah, the window can break or the second floor can be wobbly, but if the foundation is strong, everything else can be fixed. If the foundation is weak and everything else is strong, everything's going to collapse on itself and you can't fix the foundation. So I have found that dogs have this innate ability to affect our core, sometimes in a negative way, sometimes in a positive way. In other words, when my dog gets sick, that affects my core in a very negative way. When my dog is weak, if I think my dog is going to die, if I, God forbid, would ever lose my dog or something were to happen to my dog, that would shake me at the core of who I am. But for the most part, your dog is programmed to help you fix that core, strengthen that core, and really get to a point in yourself where you feel really good, right? Dogs are the creatures that make you just feel amazing. Like you are your dog's hero just by opening the door when you come home. And think about that next time you come home. Think about that next time you walk in a room and your dog is sitting there and all of a sudden you look at them and they look at you and their tail starts wagging. I mean, that's insane, right? That's completely crazy. And that's what you really want to embrace. That's what you really want to cherish. And when all the crap happens in the world, when the whole world seems completely upside down, when the politics are insane, when the jobs are insane, the economy is insane, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I'm not getting into anything political here. I promise you I will not do that. You're here to talk about dogs, to see how great dogs can make our life. And that is what I am here to help you with, right? So look at your dog. Look at your dog in the eyes. Do it right now. Just look at your dog in the eyes and smile and pet him and watch that tail start wagging. And then for a moment, just be in that moment with your dog, because most of the time we don't do it, right? Most of the time we only do it when it's too late. When it's time for that dog to say goodbye, we just hold the dog and say, oh, I wish I had another day with you. I could take you for one more walk. But right now you've got that day. Right now you've got that opportunity. So I want you to really, really think about the gift you got sitting in front of you. Forget about all the nonsense. Forget about all the stuff that's making you depressed. And this is a lesson that I teach myself all the time. I promise you, all the time. I get frustrated, I get down, I get sad, I get, I mean, so many things. I've got a lot of issues in my life that I don't really talk about publicly that much. And I get reminded of it almost every night, and I'll tell you when, and then I'll close the podcast. When I go take a shower, Goofy's laying right where I'm going to take a shower. And Maya is laying on the bed when I get out of the shower. And Maya just looks up at me and just smiles with her eyes. And I just run over, I give her a kiss, I pet her, and then I give Goofy a pet on his head because he's waiting right outside of the shower. Then I walk in the room and there's Dwayne and Jimmy, and there's Bozman, and there's Janet, and it's like, that just makes it okay, right? Look at what you got, and just enjoy it. That's all you really got. You just got this moment, and you're not going to get it again. Once it's gone, it's gone. So I hope I can, again, this had nothing to do with dog training, but it had everything to do with dogs and how great dogs make our life. So I hope that cheers you up a little bit. It's a crazy, nutty, political, emotional roller coaster of a life we're leading right now. Strange times, but embrace it. And do me a favor, check out our sponsor, Fi Collars. Go to the front of robertcabral.com, click on the Fi banner. You'll see my video all about the Fi collar, what I love about it, why I recommend it, why I use it, and I think it'll make sense to you once you see. Fi collar, if you use the link on my site, you're going to save a ton of money on it, and I think you're really going to love it, and it's going to keep your pets, your dogs mainly, safe. The Fi collar, I love it, and thanks to Fi collar for sponsoring this podcast, brought to you commercial free, and I will see you next time. Take care. If you haven't checked out the website, go to robertcabral.com. Again, I'm on all the social media as well, and it's just about dogs. There's not too much personal stuff going on there. Hope you enjoy it. Take care.